Human or half-elves are recommended races for their shield proficiency, to boost wizard survivability early on. Although, the build will dip 2 levels into Tempest Cleric, giving you all armors and shield proficiencies anyway, so technically you can play as whichever races you like. You can also run this on Gale as companion. You'll want high dexterity for initiative, and extra AC when wearing robes. Use Hag Hair to round up intelligence to 18, then +2 from ability improvement to soft cap at 20. You can get another +2 from Mirror of Loss in Act 3 for 22 intelligence. This leaves you a feed open to grab Dual Wielder, and equip 2 late-game stat sticks in Act 3. In case Hag Hair isn't available, follow this ability spread instead. You'll then need 2 ability improvement and Mirror of Loss to achieve 22 intelligence. Respec Dual Wielder back in as second feat once you obtain the stat sticks from Act 3. The damage bonuses they provide outweigh a +1 modifier bonus from 22 intelligence. Gale will still have 20 intelligence with Mirror of Loss. Firebolt and Ray of Frost cantrips will be your normal attacks whenever you are conserving spell slots. Their damage scales with character levels. Minor Illusion is very useful to group enemies up for a big AoE spell. You remain hidden when casting this spell, so you could approach hostile area with invisibility and group enemies up before surprising them. Mage Armor increase your armor class to 13, plus dexterity modifier when wearing robes. This and a shield will ensure you have a decent AC early on. Along with Shield Spell, adding another +5 AC to greatly boost your overall survivability. Longstrider is a ritual spell, which can be casted outside of combat without consuming a spell slot. Use it to give your party a 3-meter move speed buff that lasts until long rest. Enhanced Leap is also a ritual spell that triple targets jumping distance, useful for exploring, or extra mobility for you or allies in combat if you precast just before a fight. In Act 1 and 2, where a lot of fights take place near a high ground, Thunderwave is very strong to both deal damage and shove multiple enemies into their deaths. Magic Missile will be your primary single-target damage spell. It does consistent damage and can't be missed, so your spell slots are never wasted on random odds. There are already several key equipments that boost magic missile damage in Act 1. You can get Spell Sparkler as a reward for rescuing Counselor Floric from the Burning Inn. Falar Aluve can be found in the Underdark.
A slender drow blade impales the stone before you, keeping a silent vigil.
Psychic Spark Amulet is sold by Blurg in the Myconid colony.
Welcome back. I do enjoy a good bargain, if anything in my private collection is to your liking.
And finally, Ring of Absolute Force is dropped by Sergeant Thrin in Grimforge. Amulet of Elemental Torment was also previously available in Act 1, a good alternative to Psychic Spark. As for the combat setup, you'll need a frontliner to active Shriek Aura from Falar Aluve. With Psychic Spark Amulet equipped, you can just shoot Magic Missile at them, and the itemization will do it magic. With the alternative Amulet of Elemental Torment equipped, you'll need a fire surface to stand on, which can be done without costing an action in combat. Drop an Alchemist Fire on the ground, then shoot it with your offhand crossbow. Amulet of Elemental Torment requires more setup, but yield better results, as it adds 1d4 fire damage to every magic missiles, of which the fire damage also trigger multiple additional lightning and thunder damage from Shriek and Spell Sparkler.
That was too close of a fight for my liking.
Apply Vulnerable to all damage from Perilous Stakes, and you will delete most bosses.
That was too close of a fight for my liking.
There are even more equipments and class feature that boost magic missile damage later as you progress. I'll go into deeper details in gear section. As a wizard, they can restore spell slots using Arcane Recovery, so you could sling more spells before having to long rest. At level 2, Wizard can pick a subclass. Evocation School has Sculpt Spells feature, which is useful if you have 2 or more frontliners. It will allow the wizard to rain down evocation AoE spells without harming allies. However, its damaging feature that we want is not available until level 10. For more usability in early levels, I recommend Divination School subclass instead. We will respec back to 10 Evoker Wizard later on. As for Divination School feature, you gain 2 random portent dices each long rest, which can be used with your reaction to change the dice of any attack roll or saving throw rolled nearby. With a low number portent dice, you can essentially force enemy to miss an attack or fail a saving throw against your spell, taking full damage instead of halved. And vice versa. Using a high number portent dice can help your ally score an attack or succeed a save against enemy spell. Cloud of Dagger is actually pretty strong for AoE early on, as it deals damage twice, first tick on the initial cast, and second tick on enemy turns starting in it, total at 8d4 piercing damage. You can even push enemies back in to get even more damage out of the spell. Misty Step can be handy for repositioning in combat. Level 5 is where you can begin multiclassing. Respec your character, then start as Tempest Cleric with 2 levels and all the way Wizard. This is because scrolls and items use spellcasting ability modifier based on last caster class taken, so we want Wizard as the latter. With 2 full caster class taken, you still have full spell slot progression, and as a wizard, you can simply learn spells from scrolls up to current spell slot level, so you are not behind in getting new spells either. You can get the necessary scrolls from Aaron in Druid Grove, or Volo in your camp. Long resting, even when using no camp supplies, will reset their wares if needed.
Quite the cozy setup you have here. I'll just make myself comfortable. Thank you so much.
Back to Tempest Cleric Multiclass. You can now wear heavy armor for extra protection, and gain some useful support spells. Tempest Cleric also get Destructive Wrath at level 2. When you roll thunder or lightning damage, you can use your Channel Divinity charge to deal maximum damage instead. Channel Divinity recharge on short rest, so you could always use this feature to have a nuke ready in every battles. Destructive Wrath gets even better when used along with Wet status, which double your lightning and cold damage. You do so by casting Create Water, ideally before initiating combat so you can start blasting right away.
Greetings, citizen.
When up against already hostile enemies, simply approach the area in invisibility and surprise them with Create Water. However, you could also do it in combat without using an action. Drop a water bottle, move it closer to enemies before shooting it with your offhand crossbow. You can start doing these combos right away at level 5 using Lightning Bolt. On the other hand, Fireball has bigger coverage. It does the job with no setup needed as long as there is a group of enemies. Haste is handy whenever you need an extra action to sling more spells in a turn. You unlock 4th level spell slot at level 7, meaning you could learn new spells again from scrolls. Wall of Fire functions in a similar way to Cloud of Dagger. It creates a blazing fire wall, dealing damage on first cast and a second time on enemy turns when they start moving, total at 10d8 fire damage. This can be especially potent when used in Choke Point. Ice Storm is a very powerful AoE, because it covers a massive area while dealing cold damage, which can be doubled with Wet status. As Ice Storm also does part bludgeoning and part cold damage, it will trigger mutable additional damage from itemization as well. Ice Storm is also great at crowd control, as it leaves behind an icy surface, possibly knock enemies prone and force them to pass turns. At level 6 of Divination Wizard, you have an additional Portent dice, and you can now regain 1 Portent dice per short rest after fulfilling a prophecy condition. At character level 9, you unlock 5th level spell slot. This is when you should grab Scroll of Artistry of War, a unique spell that can be found in Sorceress Sundry's vault in Act 3. Artistry of War is essentially a much stronger version of Magic Missile that can only be casted once per short rest. So you'll get to launch a barrage of war missiles for at least 3 fights a day. Take ability improvement when you just first arrived Act 3. Otherwise, grab Dual Wielder once you have obtained the Act 3 weapons. At level 11, with 6th level spell slot unlocked, you can learn Chain Lightning from Scroll. Chain Lightning is a powerful spell that can spread across 4 targets, dealing max damage with Destructive Wrath and can be doubled from Wet status. On top of various damage bonuses from equipments and class feature, you can easily shred group of enemies from a distance. At the final level, Respec back to Evocation School subclass, this is when Evoker Wizard get a damaging feature that will be useful to increase our spell's damage output. Empowered Evocation adds your intelligence modifier to damage rolls made with any evocation spells. This means +5 damage at 20 intelligence across the board. It is even better on spells that does multi-hits, most notably Magic Missile, as the bonus damage get added to each missiles. Depends on what you're looking for. Conjure Elemental is useful for various purposes. 5th level Fire Elemental can both damage enemies and create a fire surface, enabling Amulet of Elemental Torment, adding 1d4 fire damage to every magic missiles. Sixth level Water Myrmidon is a great debuffer for your lightning or cold spells, as it healing vapors can apply wet to all creatures nearby in a massive area. Illithid Powers are optional, as core concept of the build works great regardless of them. Otherwise, you could grab Perilous Stakes to make a boss vulnerable to all damage, then delete them with Magic Missile. Equipments highlighted in red are core gear of the build. Magic Missile as base spell is already reliable, but it could be made stronger with a handful of equipments, right in Act 1. Psychic Spark Amulet is pretty straightforward. You now shoot an additional dart with Magic Missile. You also get to cast free level 1 version per long rest. Spell Sparkler Staff generates lightning charges every time you deal damage with spells, adding 1 lightning damage to each magic missiles, and at 5 charges, it deal yet another 1d8 lightning damage. The staff alone provide a good amount of additional lightning damage for Magic Missile, and will be used for quite some time, up until Act 3. In a similar way, Shriek Melody from Faller Alluve will add 1d4 thunder damage to every magic missiles, though targets first need to be standing inside the Shriek aura, so Faller Alluve is better equipped on one of your frontliner, who are always up close to the enemies. Ring of Absolute Force further add 1 additional thunder damage to every instances of damage made by Shriek Melody. Because of how many thunder damage you will be getting from Shriek when using magic missiles, the ring essentially add 5 to 10 plus extra thunder damage per cast. Protecty Sparkswall Robe has 1 bonus to spell save DC, which help you land AoE spells with full damage instead of halved. Surface DC is also based on your spell save DC, so it'll be useful for crowd control with Ice Storm as well. You also get +1 to AC and saving throw, as long as you have lightning charges, which is all the time because of Spell Sparkler Staff. This, on top of Mage Armor buff and Shield spell, ensure you won't be an easy target for enemies. You get another +1 AC from Wondrous Gloves and +1 spell save from Shade Spell Circlet. Kalar Durin Smooth Hands Ring let you cast invisibility once per long rest, whenever you want to get the jump on enemies. Hand crossbows are used to set up fire surface or wet status in combat, without using up an action as I've shown before. When there is nothing to do with the bonus action, you could always use the offhand attack to squeeze in extra damage. Callous Glow Ring is great for more damage output, as it adds 2 radiant damage to every magic missiles. If the ring is taken by other party member, use Coruscation Ring instead. You will easily apply stacks of Radiating Orb condition on enemies with your AoE spells or magic missile, severely reducing their attack accuracy. Whichever ring is used, be sure to cast light on yourself or your frontliner, as enemies need to be illuminated for the ring's effects to activate. Arcane Charge condition actually scales with character proficiency bonus instead of just +1 to spell damage. At level 9, that would be +4 damage getting added to spells, or each magic missile. The bonus also gets added to shriek damage. To utilize Boots of Arcane Bolstering, there are 2 requirements. First, you need to dash to get Arcane Charge buff. You can do so before initiating combat, or cast Expeditious Retreat, so you're able to dash with a bonus action in combat. Secondly, targets need to be engaged in melee combat by you or allies, usually indicated by threat and condition. With Nair Misser, you can cast 3rd level magic missile once per short rest. Free stuff is always nice. However, this free version doesn't benefit the bonus damage from Arcane Charge, so keep that in mind. Gloves of Dexterity is temporarily used for 18 dexterity, means more initiative and AC. Fistbreaker also has +1 bonus to initiative and spell save. Marco Heshgear is one of the stat stick you will be dual-wielding in Act 3. It has a +1 bonus to spell save DC and Arcane Battery feature, which let you cast any spells without consuming a spell slot once per long rest. Marco Heshgear also has a unique spell called Kareska's Favor that allow you to cast Bolts of Doom to imbue the staff with lightning. You now gain lightning charges when dealing spell damage, and your lightning spells also deal additional damage equal to your proficiency bonus. Conveniently enough, you can freely cast Chain Lightning and Lightning Bolt once each per short rest. Rhapsody Dagger is the second stat stick. While wielding it, you gain a +1 bonus to damage and spell save DC for every foe killed, up to a maximum of +3. The bonus damage is universal. It adds to all type of damage dealt, so you will be getting a +3 extra damage added to every magic missiles and each shriek damage instances generated. You can kill summons like Mage Hands, or even items with HP to build up stacks. The buff will last until long rest. Spellmite gloves can be pickpocketed from Lucretius in the circus when you first arrived Act 3. Currently, it adds 1d8 damage to every magic missile, or just about any spells, even shriek damage. Because of how many damage dices are involved with magic missiles, Hat of the Sharpcaster can give you more consistent damage output as it re-roll low damage dices. Amulet of the Devout is another alternative in Act 3. If you want more spell save DC and an additional channel divinity charge for destructive wrath, otherwise stick to Psychic Park or Amulet of Elemental Torment for magic missiles. Potion of Speed provide the same effects of haste spell whenever you are busy concentrating on other spells. For those who don't plan on using Illithid Power, they can chug a Potion of Flying instead. Bloodlust Elixir gives you an additional action on kill, so you could sling more spells in a turn.